So joining me today on the podcast, I've got Linden Bungey and Desleigh Smith from Ocean Health Systems, and we're here at HIC 2024. Hey team, how are we going?
Hey, great. Really well.
Really
Thanks,
well.
Pete.
Yeah, it's great to have you here to kick off day 3 at the conference here. But I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about Ocean Health Systems and, good supporters of Talking HealthTech and partners, and really keen to use this opportunity to understand a little bit more about who you are and what you do. So firstly, perhaps yourselves individually, Linden.
Absolutely, Pete. Well, thanks for the introduction. It's really nice to be here, and we've been having a great conference. I'm Linden Bungey, and I'm the Business Development and Sales and Marketing Manager for Ocean Health. We're only a fairly small company, so I do a global role, so all of Australia and internationally. And Desleigh?
Hi everyone, I'm Desleigh Smith. I'm the clinical lead for Ocean Health Systems, and my background's in clinical nursing, and I'm the bridge between the clinician and the developer.
Important role, being the translator in between two, and I'm sure that'll come up in our discussion here. Tell me a little bit more about Ocean.
Yeah, well, Ocean's been around for 25 years. I mean, a lot of people haven't heard of us, but we're coming back into the space of digital health, and we're very excited about that with some new products. But 25 years it was developed here in Australia. One of the leading directors and developers was Dr. Sam Hurd, and he's very heavily involved with openEHR International. So openEHR was something that was originally developed with Ocean Health Systems and a number of other people. We originated as Ocean Informatics and are trading here in Australia as Ocean Health Systems. We have a number of products, openEHR based. CKM is a repository, a library type product, which is used extensively overseas with the international CKM. It houses archetypes and templates. It does a lot of governance in that realm, and there's also a number of national instances of CKM. We also have a surveillance tool, Multiprac, which is looking at infection control, and that's based on an openEHR platform, so it has a lot of versatility. A number of vendors can actually have their products coming in, so pathology and PAS feeds, and it's been a fantastic product that we're now looking to go global with.
Interesting.
Yeah. And a new one, which Desleigh will talk a little bit about later, is a really exciting one around staff health and vaccinations called Immunise. So that's something you'll learn about soon.
Yeah, no, I'm keen to learn about those particular products. I just thought as you were talking then, because quite a few of the listeners will be familiar with openEHR and that kind of base, because we do have a strong global audience, and that gets quite a bit of attention. But it might be worth one of you kind of just setting that scene in terms of those unfamiliar with openEHR and what we're talking about there, like why that's important.
Would you like to, Desleigh?
So openEHR is a system of archetypes and templates. So we have internationally, there's an international instance. So they're reviewed by a high-level team of clinicians. So for instance, we have an archetype around temperature. So all the facets around temperature could be their temperature ranges, temperature in certain instances. The archetype allows that to be stored. So it's stored in a group, if you like. Then those groups get put into a block, or a template we call it. That template then, so that makes it easy for the clinicians, instead of saying to the developer, write me code around temperature, they can go to our archetype around temperature and say, I want in my template for this form, I want temperature, blood pressure, pulse oximetry and all the rest, and they can choose. The clinician can see it in the clinician's view. I want A, B, C, D. And it goes into the form. But for the developer gets the code. The code's written behind the scene. So that's the great thing about openEHR. It is the bridge. And I think people, and certainly overseas, people have recognised that there's lots of clinicians use it.
Yeah. And I guess then that opens up a lot of capability to develop some products or solutions that can address specific issues. And I'd love to learn about, I think you mentioned Multiprac, is that right?
Yes, Multiprac Surveillance. Yes. It's an infection control and surveillance tool, and it was actually developed on an openEHR platform, but we also have a cloud version as well.
Interesting.
So it's utilised predominantly here in Australia. We have some very large users, where there's multi-facilities, healthcare facilities, over 100, 150 healthcare facilities with the one user.
Mm-hmm.
It's also used with tiny private hospitals as well. So that's where the cloud version can come into play.
Yeah.
And Desleigh, you can go into the clinical side of things with Multiprac, I think.
Multiprac surveillance is about infection control surveillance. So monitoring your superbugs, monitoring your bloodstream infections, your surgical site infections, being able to have a core set of a core data collection page that collects data around the standard, and so that you can actually examine that data moving forward. So you're collecting, everyone collects the same structure of data. So, and all the things required by the standards are there in the drop-downs. So you don't have to look for them, you don't have to find them, they're there. So what that does, though, then once you enter the data, it automatically goes to our analytical data repository. So then the data's in the reporting. So from there you can set up, connect it to a power like a business intelligence tooling, and be able to then create your own dashboard. You can monitor it. Multiprac is pathology driven. So it's a diagnostic stewardship. They talk about it in the clinical world. So it's about you get real-time pathology. So immediately the pathology infection or the result is seen in the lab. It appears in Multiprac. Then you decide what type of infection it is, and then you create your data collection form, go and do your clinical review, and then it's up for monitoring.
Yeah.
It really allows you early intervention. So before we had Multiprac, it was all hard copy, and you waited for the path to come the next day in a hard copy form, your 4 inches of pathology. And but now it just comes all day, the path, and you review it. So it enables the early action, and early monitoring and treatment within the healthcare environment of patients that might have an infection.
Yeah, I was as you're talking through that workflow, I'm thinking, where is the biggest impact there in terms of, say, implementing such a solution compared to, how things would otherwise be done compared to with the platform. And sounds like there's benefits in terms of the data entry side, like the front end, the workflow piece, which can obviously optimize those that are doing the caring, and rather than them punching in a lot of data, but also the real time access to the information is important. But the analytics piece you called out, like at the end, the retrospective part, sounds interesting too. So that's the being able to then, I guess, use it as a rear view mirror to what's been happening.
Absolutely. So absolutely, and the infections don't just happen. That sometimes it's a trend, and 1 month you might see 1. And the next month it might be 2, and in 6 months it might be 10. So you can actually look back, and the data mining ability of the application allows you to see the process of each infection and when it occurred, what time in the hospitalisation it occurred. So and it allows you then to address the issue. Is the issue a process issue? Is it a product issue? All those sorts of things.
Yeah. And then so we've got the Immunise platform, is that right too?
Immunise is our new product.
Yes.
It's at the demonstration, and it will be an MVP very, very soon. So that's an exciting new product. We actually haven't built that on openEHR this time. We've actually used FHIR standards. So, a little bit different, but it will, at some stage, we're working towards it speaking as well with Multiprac, so that the information from the staff health can be utilised with Multiprac. So, Desleigh, you might like to go into the ins and outs of Immunise.
So, Immunise is, as I was a nurse immuniser in the middle of COVID, everything was up in the air. So, when I looked at it, you looked at how people did it in different workplaces across the healthcare zone or outside of healthcare. People had staff health information in boxes, in hard copy. They would have boxes behind the desk. In a spreadsheet, the spreadsheet was never right. In Excel. Some people use SharePoint, but not everyone could do that. It was all over the place and stored in the HR section of the HR stores it beautifully, but they don't manage it. So what happens with Immunise, when your staff member, it's a part of workplace health and safety, staff health. So to make sure you're safe before you leave home, you make sure you've got your immunisations up to date. And so what Immunise does is when you come to a workplace, you say, here's my immunity record. The clinician then will review that and say, oh, hey, let's just check your serology around these two things. And so our application stores the staff record. It then has an internal communication notification system that will send off a pathology request to go and have your serology and communicates directly with the staff member. The staff member has an app so they can see day to day what's happening with their immunity and their, the things that are going on with them. If then they need an immunisation, we offer an immunisation to the staff member, and the staff member can go in then and read about the immunisation, book an appointment, and then consent to it, all before they get to the appointment. And then when they get to the appointment, the immuniser then can complete the encounter and upload it to AIR, which is the Australian Immunisation Register. So that in itself can all happen in one flow.
Yeah.
So, so that's what... and again, behind that, we have our analytical data repository and reporting. So every time one person is entered into the system, it's recorded. We have structured data sets. We make all the data sets available. And so each organisation can create their own reports, what they need. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
So you can create your own structure of reporting. We could just give you the full data set, connect it to your business intelligence tooling. And I think it's important across both products. Our products are vendor neutral. So you don't have to be this product to fit with this product. We fit within any ecosystem. So that's our focus.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned at the start, it's a requirement. It's necessary from a duty of care point of view as well, from the organisation having a control and understanding of that information, staff's immunisation record, and particularly off the back of what we came off with the pandemic. But that's important at any time. And I imagine, to that point, sometimes if not for the product, then it'd be in a spreadsheet or, in a box or under someone's desk or in a SharePoint. But it's healthcare information about clients. So from a data and a privacy perspective, that's pretty critical too.
Yeah, and it's great. Staff are responsible, and most staff want to be responsible for their own information.
Yeah.
So it allows the organisation to maintain their immunity and know at a glance who needs a tetanus needle or who doesn't need a tetanus needle. But it also, for the staff member, it's reassurance. They can just go to their device and dial into the app and say, oh, I'm right.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's going to be important. Hey, and thinking about it too, I guess these products or solutions to problems come about based on feedback from customers, from what we see in the ecosystem. And, as you mentioned, Ocean have got quite a few runs on the board in terms of experience in the ecosystem, but obviously that's changed over a long period of time. And you mentioned as well, with the Immunise platform, diving into fire and kind of keeping abreast of other standards of what's needed too. Where are you kind of looking at now and kind of on that next horizon, or how are you keeping across what's happening within the ecosystem that's going to be important and on top of next?
Yeah, well, Ocean, as you said, have been around for, 25 years, and we've got some people working within the company who are highly trained in various areas. So not only the software developers, we have clinical persons like Desleigh, and Dr. Sebastian Gard is based in Germany. He's our CKM and was one of the key principal developers of CKM. That product. We have Dr. Sharef Arakan, who's based in the UK. He's very much an open air person and has done a lot of work in that area. So, and Dr. Chunlan Ma is one of our lead developers here in Australia. She actually was the key designer and discovered AQL, which is another, query language.
Yeah.
So we've got some very, very strong, being a small company, we have some very strong technical and intellectual property.
Yes.
And I guess it's working with people like that who keep abreast of everything that's working We also are involved with AIDH, MSIA, and groups such as that, CSIRO, so that we can actually work with these groups and partner and learn more about what is going on and how we can fit into that ecosystem.
Takes a village, doesn't it? But and also having that capability within the business across the world too can have a real impact. Sometimes, so I think we've got a good understanding of the capability of the platforms and products and I guess theoretically what they can do. It's great to be able to put it in context and perhaps with examples or case studies. Are there any examples that you can talk about within the region that people might be able to resonate?
So personally myself with Multiprac and infection control surveillance, it certainly was surgical site surveillance. Clinically, when I worked clinically, we identified a cluster of surgical infections. All of a sudden, we had one type of infection, and it was a deep incisional wound. Everyone's saying it's not my fault. Where's this coming from? But through the collection of the surgical site data, we pinned it down to a product that wasn't stored correctly, or in another instance, we pinned it down to hand hygiene. And in the ward, it could have been improved, or a cleaning process was missed out a couple of days. Things like that, you can pin it down. So it really, the data mining ability of it is great. So clinically, I've worked with Multiprac for many years, and I'm looking forward to working with Immunise, because Immunise will just allow one person, the immuniser, to be the control point.
Yeah.
Instead of a team of people finding information out and, taking a week to put reports together.
Yeah.
That was the big thing with Multiprac, I think, when I first did it. It used to take me almost a week to do the monthly reports. And when when that was initiated, it took me half a day.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah, there's some real tangible examples. And I think, too, having the data to be able to then provide some justification, or at least a something to point to that is around some of these just things you have to do within a healthcare setting that you're like, yes, it's really important products are stored correctly. Yes, it's really important hand hygiene, and we know that that's important. But if we've got the data to then say, well, look, we've seen this, there's a trend or an indication, and that's why we need to do this extra thing. And so to be able to have that communication within the business too is helpful, because without the data, without measuring it, you can't really know how it's tracking. So that's going to be really important. So then, with all that in mind, then, and looking, on with a lot of, as we've heard about here at HIC and around just generally within the ecosystem, a lot of emerging trends, new things happening, and more challenges to solve that technology can play a role. Where's Ocean seeing they can have a real impact over the next 6, 12, 24?
Yeah, for Ocean, we're looking at obviously continuing our integrated care, controlling the environment, looking at being able to control the data and be able to utilise the data. And that's, I think, the biggest thing behind Ocean, to always have worked with the data and make it more accessible. And so that's what we're trying to do with all of our products. We've had a few specialised areas in the infection control area, the staff health, but the staff health will also we'll be moving out of the healthcare environment as well. There'll be other verticals where this will be a product that will be utilised and can be utilised. And so we are looking outside of healthcare as well with our products. We're looking to go global with Multiprac surveillance. We've got some interest in the UK and in other areas. And as well with CKM, looking at bringing that within Australia in a more open fashion. But yeah, we'll be continuing. We're looking for partners to work with. We've had some fantastic discussions at HIC with different groups who are either startups or larger groups. And I think, that's where we're looking to partner with not only industry, with our customers as well, but also with the larger groups such as AIDH. What are they doing? MSIA, how can we help?
Yeah, very cool. And anything else from a clinical perspective, Desleigh, that you're looking for?
Look, clinically, I love working with Ocean because it's dynamic. And if there's a clinically, nothing is static. Everything moves forward. Things change. What you need to collect is change what you need to look at. And the ability for openEHR to provide that change, my interest will be how and we're looking into how, like everyone, I guess, but how to connect FHIR and openEHR, how to have that in one instance, because both of them, people, choose one or the other at the minute, but I think there'll be great benefit moving forward for the clinician if we can have both in one place.
Yes, absolutely. I think you're on the money there. Look, Linden, Desleigh, I really appreciate making the time to have a chat and looking forward to seeing how things progress, and we'll have to come again on the show soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pete.